week, what could be a disaster for prosecutors, but there still could be reasons to move forward with it.
And right now, Casey Anthony's trial is set for January, but many questions are hanging over this case.
How can the state attorney even prove Kaylee is dead, much less whether Casey killed her? Last night, investigative reporter Tony Pipitone took the case to trial. Tonight, he looks at whether the death penalty is even an option.
Whenever prosecutors finish presenting their case against Casey Anthony, the defense will ask the judge to throw it out, seeking a judgment of acquittal. Meaning, even with the state getting every benefit of the doubt, there's no way a jury could properly find guilt. When it came time to argue for acquittal, the criminal defense attorney on our panel, Cheney Mason, would be practically leaping to his feet.
How do you prove that this child is dead just because her mother won't say where she has been or is? If you can't prove that she's dead. If you can't prove she's dead, you can't prove the cause of death. If you can't prove the cause of death, you have a hard time trying to prove who's behind the cause or how it happened.
Former prosecutor Elizabeth Roder says a circumstantial case could be solid enough to at least get to a jury.
Is it reasonable for a mother never to report her missing child? Is it reasonable for her to be quiet? Is it reasonable for her to never call the police? Is it reasonable for there to be hair in the trunk? Well, how often does her daughter hang out in the trunk of her car?
A trunk that reeked of death, and which scientists could be allowed to testify contained the remains of a decomposing human body. So for the sake of our experiment, let's say the state's case survives and Casey can offer a defense.
Motion for acquittal denied. Do you put her on the stand?
What I know about the case this time, there's not a snowball's chance, where in me putting her on a witness stand.
And why is that?
Well, because there's so much to cross-examine her about.
The prosecutor, much as she might like it, cannot force Casey to testify. So other than cross-examining the state's witnesses, the defense's work may be done.
You just say the defense rests. Don't even put on a defense.
Well, there's a good chance that would be the case.
So that would leave Casey's fate to a jury. Right now, she's charged with first-degree murder, aggravated child abuse, aggravated manslaughter, and 4 counts of lying to police. Sometimes juries are given a chance to compromise on what's called lesser-included offenses.
It doesn't have to be murder. It could be something lesser.
It could be murder, first degree, second degree, or manslaughter.
Either side could ask that those choices be given to the jury.
Most likely the defense is going to say, we just want what's charged and nothing less.
If the case against Casey is as weak as Mason claims, she and her attorney may choose to roll the dice.
The defense would risk all or nothing?
Some defense attorneys have done that. You either come after murder one or you have to acquit.
Again, for the sake of argument, let's say the jury finds Casey guilty. Guilty of premeditated murder or murder in the commission of aggravated child abuse. Either way, the case would turn to life or death. That is, if the state even seeks the death penalty. To get it, the state would likely have to show the death was heinous, atrocious, or cruel.
How do you prove the aggravator of heinous, atrocious, and cruel if you can't prove the cause of death? Because you don't have a body.
There's a dead child. How more heinous and atrocious and cruel can there be?
Because people die by accident. People die of natural causes. People die any number of ways. Absolutely no way. No possibility of proving heinous, atrocious, and cruel without the body.
And there are other so-called aggravators.
Is that cold, calculated, and premeditated?
I think you could definitely argue the cold and calculated.
How do you prove cold, calculated, premeditated, again, if you don't know when or how or why?
The state could also argue a child victim being killed by a caregiver supported death penalty, but on this question, both our defense and prosecutor sides have some agreement.
As stand now, you can't get there.
So there's no way you see a death penalty in this case?
No.
Based on what we know now?
Based on what we don't know.
I don't think the state would go through with it if they don't have a body.
That they wouldn't go even to the death penalty? They wouldn't even seek it?
Right.
Without a body?
Then there's the other possible result.
Not guilty on all counts. Is that justice? If she walks out of that courtroom a free woman?
If you believe in the Constitution of the United States and you believe in a jury system, then you must necessarily conclude that that was justice.
And on that, they both agree, Jacqueline.
I know pretrial motions are next week, and the trial is set to begin in January.
January 5th right now, but if the defense does not waive Casey's right to a speedy trial, the clock is ticking, and the latest a trial could start would be April 7th. So all this could come to a head very soon.
All right, Tony, we'll be watching.
Now, since 6 o'clock, we touched base with George and Cindy Anthony hours after their attorney severed ties with him. And tonight we're learning that they're most certainly going to look for another lawyer. Local 6 reporter Jessica D'Onofrio is in Orange County tonight. Jess, what'd you find out about their search for an attorney?
Well, Bob, I talked to Cindy a little while ago right here in front of their East Orange County home, and she told me that right now she feels like they don't need an attorney, but she says she is certainly planning on looking for one very soon.
George and Cindy Anthony tell Local 6 off camera tonight that they're now looking for new legal representation. Today, their high-profile Orlando attorney, Mark Nejame, quit.
In order for me to represent a client, I've got to be the one in charge of the case and the client. And I felt like I didn't have the requisite control.
Nejame says he had no control over George and Cindy, saying he could be of little value since they've been choosing to act and comment at will.
Yeah, this is Kaylee's room. This is very hard to come in now. People are starting to send Christmas presents to us already for Kaylee.
Just this week, the couple allowed me exclusive access into their home to talk about the search for their missing granddaughter, Kaylee.
Having Thanksgiving comments, not going to be our normal, Thanksgiving.
Nejame says our report was not the straw that broke the camel's back. Instead, he says it was a series of incidents that led to his decision.
If I'm providing service as an advisor, then it does little good if my advice is not followed.
Tonight, both sides say there are no hard feelings, and the Anthonys released a statement thanking Nejame for his efforts. But now they're left to fend for themselves, while investigators press them for information about their daughter Casey, who's charged in connection to the murder of their granddaughter.
Back here live, we were expecting the Anthonys to have a press conference sometime tomorrow. They were going to discuss in more detail why they believe Kaylee Marie is still alive. However, today, they abruptly canceled that press conference. For now, I'm live in East Orange County. Jessica D'Onofrio, Local 6.
Well, just Mark Nejame is no longer there to tell them not to hold the news conference. Why'd they call it off?
Well, all they said in their news release today was that due to the developments this week, they thought it was unnecessary, but they wouldn't really be specific about anything else. Bob?
I'm sure we'll hear from them shortly. Jess, thank you.